My name is Heather. I am 26 years old, and I live in New York City. People say this city never sleeps. But many nights, I stood awake not because of the noise, but because my heart was too heavy to rest. I worked as a waitress in a hotel bar, every evening, every night. I wore a black uniform, tied my hair back, and forced a smile that did not reach my eyes. Behind that bar, I poured expensive drinks for rich people who laughed easily, as if life had never hurt them. My life was very different. Most of my money went to student loans. Rent came next. And whatever was left was barely enough to breathe. But money was not the only thing I was losing. Not long ago, I had ended a relationship that I believed would last forever. He left quietly, like he was closing a door he no longer needed. Since then, something inside me felt empty. Like a room with the lights still on, but no one inside. Every night, I watched the guests carefully. Their designer clothes. Their confident voices. Their careless smiles. I wondered what it felt like to live without fear of tomorrow. To order a drink without checking the price. To love without worrying about being left behind. Sometimes, while wiping glasses, I asked myself a dangerous question. What if my life could be different? I didn't know that one ordinary night, in the middle of loud music and clinking glasses, someone would walk into that bar and quietly change everything I believed about love, money, and trust. That night, the door opened. And I looked up. That was the moment I saw him. That night, the bar was louder than usual. Glasses clinked. Music played softly in the background. Rich voices laughed without worry. And I stood there, wiping the counter, pretending my heart wasn't broken. Then he walked in. Tall. Calm. Confident. He wore a black suit that fit him perfectly, like the world had been designed for his body. Every woman noticed him. I could feel their eyes move with him. But he didn't look at them. He looked at me. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Men like him didn't see women like me, a tired waitress with loan payments and a broken heart. He walked straight to the bar and sat down. I handed him a menu, my hands slightly shaking. Then he said something I didn't expect. You look like someone who doesn't belong here. I froze. Most men flirted with jokes or compliments. But this felt different. Too honest. Too sharp. I smiled politely and said, "You're right. I'm just here to pay my rent." He laughed, not loudly, not proudly, but like someone who understood pain. From that night on, Andrew came every evening. Always the same drink. Always the same seat. Always the same calm eyes watching me like he was trying to read a story written on my face. We talked between orders. Small things at first. About the city. About music. About how lonely New York can feel, even when you're surrounded by people. He never touched me. Never crossed a line. Never made me feel small. One Friday night, after the bar closed, he looked at me and said, "Would you like to have dinner with me, Heather?" My heart skipped. I told myself not to imagine anything. Not to hope. But when I said yes, I already knew. My life was quietly stepping onto a new path. And I had no idea how dangerous, or how painful, that path would become. I thought my life was finally changing. After that night, Andrew was everywhere in my world. Every morning, I woke up to messages from him. Every afternoon, flowers arrived at my door. Every evening, my phone rang, and his voice filled the quiet spaces in my heart. For the first time in months, I smiled without forcing it. For the first time since my breakup, I felt chosen. I told myself, maybe this is what love looks like when it comes late but strong. Then one evening, everything shattered. I was alone in my apartment, eating instant noodles, watching the news without really paying attention. Suddenly, I heard his name. Andrew. I looked up. There he was, on the screen. Standing tall, confident, wearing the same calm smile I knew so well. Next to him stood a woman. She was beautiful in a way I could never be. Tall, elegant, perfect. The kind of woman magazines were made for. The reporter's voice echoed in my ears. Billionaire Andrew Whitmore reunites with his fiancée, famous model Carol Bennett, after her return from Paris. Fiancée. The word hit me like cold water. My hands started shaking. I felt dizzy. I couldn't breathe. Fiancé? My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. All the late-night calls. All the flowers. All the words about being different. Were they all lies? I stared at the screen, hoping I had misunderstood. But the camera zoomed in. Carol smiled and held his arm. He didn't pull away. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called Andrew. My voice sounded calm, but my heart was breaking. Andrew. I saw the news. There was silence on the other end. Then he sighed. Yes, Heather. I'm engaged to Carol. I felt something inside me collapse. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. I didn't plan this, he said quietly. I didn't expect to feel anything for you. His words hurt more than silence. Before I could say anything else, he hung up. That night, he came to my apartment. He stood in front of me, serious, almost desperate. I broke off the engagement, he said. I did it for you. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But doubt had already planted its roots in my heart. A few days later, the world found out about us. Photos of me leaving his car were everywhere. Headlines called me a gold digger. A waitress chasing a billionaire. People who didn't know me decided who I was. Then my boss called me into his office. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just said, "We don't want drama." And just like that, I lost my job. I had no income. No safety. Only questions. Andrew found me a new apartment. He said it was for my protection. But standing in a place I didn't earn, paid for by a man who had already lied to me. I felt trapped. I looked at him and asked the question that had been burning inside me. Andrew, is this love? He paused. Then he said something I would never forget. It's both, Heather. And in that moment, I realized. Fairy tales don't always end with happiness. Sometimes, they end with truth, and truth hurts the most. I thought the pain could not get worse. I was wrong. One afternoon, when the city felt heavy and gray, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, is this Heather? A calm female voice asked. Yes, I replied. This is Carol. My hands began to shake. Andrew's ex-fiancée. She asked if we could meet. I wanted to say no. Every part of me screamed to hang up. But something inside me said I needed the truth. We met at a quiet cafe. Carol looked exactly like the woman on TV, perfect hair, perfect smile. But her eyes were tired. She didn't waste time. Andrew didn't end our engagement because of love, she said softly. He needed a scandal. I felt my chest tighten. Our families planned a business merger. My father wanted control over Andrew's company, she continued. He needed a reason to destroy the deal. And you were that reason. Her words cut deep. She told me Andrew knew that being seen with a waitress would cause chaos. The media. The rumors. The scandal. Enough to cancel the business agreement. You weren't a mistake, Heather, she said. You were part of the plan. I left the cafe in shock. When I returned to the apartment Andrew paid for, he was there. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just asked. Is it true? Andrew looked at me. For a long moment, he said nothing. That silence was my answer. My heart broke, not loudly, but completely. I realized something terrifying. The man I loved had chosen strategy over honesty. Power over truth. Control over love. I packed a small bag. I can't stay here, I said. Andrew reached for me, but I stepped back. That night, I walked out, not just from his apartment, but from the illusion I had been living in. And for the first time in a long time, I chose myself. I met Andrew one last time in the park. There were no cameras. No reporters. No luxury cars. He was sitting on a bench, wearing simple clothes. No suit. No watch. No power. For the first time, he looked like a normal man. And for the first time, he looked small. Thank you for coming, Heather, he said quietly. I sat down, but I kept a little distance between us. My heart still remembered him. But my mind was finally awake. He didn't ask me to come back. He didn't promise anything. He just said, I wanted to see you one more time, as myself. I looked at him and realized something painful and clear. I didn't fall in love with his money. I didn't fall in love with his power. I fell in love with the version of him that felt real. And that version had been mixed with lies. Andrew, I said, my voice calm but strong. Love is not built on money, control, or sacrifice made too late. He looked at me, his eyes full of regret. Love is built on honesty, I continued. And when honesty is broken, everything else falls apart. He nodded. There was nothing left to say. I stood up and walked away. Each step felt heavy, but also free. Weeks later, my life was quiet again. I worked at a small cafe. I paid my own bills. I smiled for real. I was no longer a secret. No longer a tool. No longer a headline. I learned that love can lift you. But it can also test you. And sometimes, choosing yourself is the bravest love story of all. My name is Heather. I don't have his world. But I have my own life back.